Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Stay at Home and Brew It. I'm Jeff Perot.
And I'm Brock Tornga.
Almost said Jeff the Pirate.
He is Jeff the Pirate, a.k.a.
And today we're going to talk a little bit...
with us today is Jeff the Pirate.
Yarr! Today we're going to talk a little bit about what to know before you brew your first extract batch of beer. And some of these things I think would actually be applicable for whether it's extract or all grain. I mean, almost some things to keep in mind as whenever you brew.
Sure.
And after even not first batch, but your 100th batch.
Indeed, and some people jump right in with these electric kits and or electric systems, and they want to go straight to all grain. So this could be applicable for you as well if that's the type. Although we harshly try to tell you to please brew and extract beer first.
Yeah, and the reason we do that is because of the idea that you need something kind of without a whole lot of bells and whistles and knobs and things going on, so that you can focus on learning the process and learning kind of some of the things like sanitation and cleaning and how to ferment and all those kind of things. But first off, just relax, okay? Sometimes we'll get people to come in and they'll want to brew, but they'll be very nervous.
Oh, I've messed up my beer. Everything that I've done, I'm so afraid to make a mistake. I'm just going to screw it all up.
Yeah, relax. This is meant to be fun. It's meant to be a hobby that's something.
It's beer.
Yeah, beer is fun.
Yeah, have a brew.
Yeah. So do that. The other thing is before you start, before you jump headlong into things, do a little research. When I first started brewing, and I started with extract batches, one of the first things I did was I tried to read some about it. I looked up some stuff online. Actually, I had a buddy who was brewing, so I talked to him. There weren't a whole lot of podcasts or things like that available. But
when did you start brewing, Jeff?
Let's see. I started brewing back in 2005.
Okay.
Maybe 2004, somewhere in there.
Yeah. All right. So things were resources were probably not as easy to find then, and even before. It was even more difficult. Thankfully, there's a wealth of resources now that you can do, and probably a little bit of research, a little bit of digging into it goes a really long way with your brew, with your first brew. And by all means, if you have a buddy who is a brewer, that by far is the best way really to do your first batch, is if you have somebody that is experienced and that has done it several times, or even a couple of times.
Yeah, or what you can do also is if there's a homebrew club in your area, you can make a friend there. Talk to some of the people that are there. A lot of guys and ladies that are home brewers, and maybe talk to one of them and say, "Hey, I'm looking to get into this. Is there someone who could be willing to help me?" And
absolutely. In fact, we have a local chapter here in Fort Worth, right? The Cap and Hare, and they have meetings. Monday night, is it the last or the first? Do you remember, Tyler? First or last Monday? So the first Monday of every month, they actually meet at Cowtown, and we've had several guys go down there that were just getting into brewing, and I think it was really beneficial because they'll have talks, they'll do things all in the beer world, and that's another good way to meet people too, if you don't know anybody that's making beer. But there is all kinds of resources.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm sorry.
No,
one of the ones which
going to model it here for us.
One of the ones which I've recommended to a number of people is How to Brew by John Palmer. There's a lot of wonderful information in there. The book itself goes in depth, a great amount of depth as to brewing brewing extract, all grain, all those things. So that's a great resource there. But then also, there's an online version that's much shorter that you can still access if you want to wait.
This is actually his second edition here.
Yes.
Of this book. I bought the original book, which was probably about that thin. So he has definitely added a lot of information to this book. Yeah. And Jeff, the other day I was brewing and I had a quick question, and I actually referenced my Palmer book.
Really?
Yeah, I just pulled it out. There's a conversion table in there. It was really easy for me. So there's a lot of good stuff in here, and also from very, very minimal to way even further over my head, and I've brewed for a lot of years. So there's a lot of good information in Palmer's book. Yeah. Great place to go.
Oh yeah.
To begin.
And so, I mean, that can be something. Actually, we've got here at Texas Brewing, we have a lot of resources on our website, a lot of videos, podcasts, information about about brewing that can
Yeah,
help
you
you
just
out.
go to txbrewing.com, and at the top there's going to be a menu bar. You just go to Learn and scroll down. There's some really, really good videos there for all kinds of things, especially for a first batch, though.
Yeah.
And if you bought your equipment here, you'll actually get to see all of the equipment that you just purchased be used in making that first one. So that's a really nice resource, too.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask us. We'll have people that'll call and ask with questions about getting into brewing, and that's perfectly fine. We're more than willing to help you out and help you find out what a great hobby this truly is. I'd say another thing is as you're looking at this whole process, again, relax.
Yeah.
This is meant to be fun.
Have a homebrew.
Yeah.
In the words of Charlie Papazian. Right?
Yeah.
That was one of the first books I ever read, actually.
Okay,
Was
yeah,
the
I
joy
didn't mention that
of home brewing. And although, do we have one to copy up here? Let's
I
see if we got
don't
it.
know if we do or not, but that's actually also another good resource is The Complete Joy of Homebrewing, written by Charlie Papazian. You can find that used sometimes or new. There's a lot of copies out there. I don't know what edition he's in now, but
I don't have a copy of it,
Okay.
and it's a good starter book. It is starting to get a little bit outdated. Some of the information in there has passed, and I don't know if there's been another edition of that released or not. But another great book. There's a ton of great resources out there for you. Now, I would say that the YouTube stuff. I would just kind of be a little bit careful with that because there's some really good information and there's some really bad information. So I would say just a little common sense goes a long ways. If somebody's doing something that is just obviously, complicating your beer, chances are that step is probably not even necessary.
yeah. Years ago, I remember when I was first starting out, I found a video, and it was really bad quality video because we didn't have very good quality videos back then. But it was this guy who was making beer, and I watched as he poured hot wort into a funnel into his carboy while wearing flip-flops.
Oh.
And it was spraying everywhere, and he was dancing around because it was getting all over his feet. I was like, okay, I don't think that's how you do it.
Why would you release this video of yourself doing
I
this
have
stuff?
no idea. No idea. So, but as you get into this, and as you're looking at brewing your first extract batch, one of the things which you've heard us talk about before, and one of the things which we cannot emphasize enough is the importance of cleaning. Making sure all of your stuff is clean. Making sure your fermenter is clean, whether it be a glass carboy or a plastic carboy or a plastic bucket. And now clean, what we mean by clean is basically clean to the eye.
Yeah, well, I 100% agree with you on the cleanliness. In brewing, cleanliness is godliness. And that's just something that you need to remember forever. That will never go away. And what we mean by cleaning, right, is always 2 steps,
Yes.
correct? Cleaning and then sanitizing.
Correct. So there's a number of cleansers that are out there. I mean, and a lot of times we'll use PBW or we'll use Brew Clean. Those are good cleaners. Also, just sometimes I've seen with pots, you just get a little bit of elbow grease and a scrub pad,
Yep.
and that can do a great job at cleaning.
Absolutely. Now, I've always heard people kind of shy away from soap, Jeff. Is there a good reason not to use just regular dish soap?
Yes. The problem sometimes with dish soap is that it can leave behind a residue. Sometimes on your pot or on your equipment. Also, a lot of that stuff is scented, and nothing tastes worse than when you put a lot of effort into making a beer, great stout, and there's a little bit of,
Green apple.
or lavender in the background,
Yes.
and you did not put lavender or green apple in it.
Now, I would say that if you're in a pinch and that's all you have, you absolutely could do that. Just make sure that you rinse really,
Yes.
really thoroughly, that you get all of that off your surface, and that you've gone by with another soft cloth or something just to make sure that you've rinsed all that soap away.
Yeah.
So in a pinch, I think is acceptable. Now, how about this stuff right here? Have you ever used this stuff?
Now, one step, I actually started with one step because I thought it was a sanitizer. Now, if you actually read it, it says that it's a cleanser. So I think is it oxygen based, almost like
Yep.
OxyClean?
I think it's almost the exact same thing as this PBW, isn't
Okay.
it? Or close.
It's close. I don't know if it's necessarily as powerful,
I don't think it might be.
but it's a cleanser. It's not a sanitizer. And what you need to do is you need to not only clean, but then you need to be able to sanitize. And some of the sanitizers which we recommend is you've got Asasan and Star San are both great sanitizers to go in and sanitize.
Sanitizer.
Sanitizer.
Okay. All right. So we have to clean it first with some sort of oxidizing cleaner, right?
Correct.
Would be the best. Whether it's one step, and this makes an okay cleaner. I think this is a little more powerful, like you said. Now, I can't stress enough that if you use the one step, please get a sanitizer as well.
Yes.
It's just not going to kill the microorganisms like a good sanitizer, the Star
Correct.
San or our Ace San, which we have for a little bit cheaper.
One thing also to remember is, and I didn't know this when I first brewed my first extract batch, which was the idea that you do not have to sanitize your pot.
This is the story I was hoping for
Yeah.
when I was talking about this stuff right here.
So what I did was, I thought, of course, one step was a sanitizer, and so I took one step and put it on everything. My pot, just everything I could think of, because everything I'd read said everything needs to be sanitized.
Sanitize.
And so I did that. I came this close to doing a one-step shower for myself,
Okay. Just
throwing it all over. I didn't go that far.
Okay.
But the thought
That
did
would
pass my
probably
mind.
hurt.
It probably would not be very nice.
So now, why do I not need to sanitize my boil pot?
Okay, it's a good question. The reason you don't need to sanitize your boil pot is because you're going to be boiling that for a good hour, or sometimes even longer depending upon the batch. And so it's going to be boiling for a good hour. There's not going to be a thing alive in that.
No, but it does need to be cleaned, right?
Correct. You do need to make sure your pot is clean. That means that it's clean to the eye. We don't go for seasoning on our stainless steel pots. You want it clean. You don't want it kind of with all kinds of little.
No, organics are
Gunks.
not a good thing in there, regardless if you're going to boil or not. But Jeff is right. That's going to boil for an hour at least, and steam is a fantastic sanitizer as well. So anything like your spoon, this sorts of things, is going to be hanging out inside of that brew kettle is going to be sanitized as well. So really anything on the hot side, correct?
Correct. Now, of course, you need to make sure the hot side stuff is clean. You don't have to worry about sanitizing it. But at some point in time, you will need to sanitize and be very careful with things, and that happens at the end of the boil. But before we get to that, I remember one of the things which also kind of hit me as I started brewing was, they would start talking around and they throw around these things. Oh, do you want DME or LME? I had no idea what in God's green earth any of that was. Well, okay, so there are extracts which have been made, and you probably, if you're first starting into brewing and you're going to brew an extract kit, then your kit may have in it a liquid extract or a dry extract. Now,
So DME, dry malted extract,
Correct.
right, is what that stands for, and liquid malted extract,
yes.
correct?
Now, the difference between these two is this is a thick syrup, and as you can see, this is a powder. Now, that may seem obvious, but there are some interesting challenges with this. When I brewed my first batch, I actually used DME on it. I didn't have any LME. And I opened it up and I started gradually kind of pouring it in there. And suddenly it all just starts caking on everything.
Okay.
All the steam is coming up from my pot that I've heated up to about 150 some odd degrees, and it's starting to cake around the sides. It's going on my hands and on my arms, and suddenly I've got DME arms.
Wonderful, like beer candy everywhere, if you will, right?
Yeah, because it is sticky. And as soon as this hits any moisture at all, it starts to absorb it and stick together. So, be aware of that, and when you're pouring it in, that can be a bit of a challenge.
So I think kind of to combat that, what I tell a lot of people is it's just best to move it off the flame as well. If you pour it too fast, the sugar can go to the bottom as well, and you could caramelize or stick that scorch it to the bottom. So I find that a really easy way is just to move that across, and then throw her on in there, stir her back up, move her back to the flame.
Yeah.
I haven't had a whole lot of problem with it. Now, on the other hand,
with LME, it's a thick syrup that you'll be pouring in. And of course, that's going to go straight to the bottom of your kettle. And if you've got the flames on high, then you really risk burning and scorching the bottom of your pot with the liquid malt extract. So be careful.
It's not
with
going to
that.
dissipate in the solution quite as
Correct.
fast as the DME, right?
Yes.
And so both of these products are okay to use.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
And generally, whenever you get a kit from us, an extract kit from us, it's actually going to be what's known as kind of a mini mash, okay? We have some of the specialty grains, the specialty malts in there, if you will. for you too steep, right? So we bring that up to about 152. We've talked about this a little bit before. That temperature is where starches are converted into sugars, but you're basically making a big tea, right? So we bring it up to this 152. We'll put in these specialty malts, but our grain bill as a whole, like if you go to a brewery, correct, you're going to have this about 95, 98% of that grain bill is going to be a base malt, where a lot of your sugars are going to derive from. The very, very small, like if we're doing a stout or something like that, maybe 2% of your grain bill, something around there is going to be a roasted malt, a specialty malt, something like that. And that's where a lot of our mouthfeel, a lot of our color is going to come from, and a lot of that flavor for that beer. But the other big, huge portion of that grain bill is a base malt. Now, what has happened is that has been mashed by a maltster. Okay, they've already done the conversion for you, and then they've just dehydrated it out the water. Okay, and this one they've left a little bit water in so that you can pour it and use it, and this one here they've dehydrated it completely out. So that's where that malted extract comes from. It is just grain sugar, correct?
Oh yeah, I mean you can actually eat it, and
it's delicious.
It actually really tastes good. Now I know one of the challenges is, you'll notice as you're pouring your dry malted extract into the pot that even if you take it off the flame, some of the steam will cause the extract to collect around the bag. What I found easiest to do with that is you keep your spoon that you're stirring with nearby, and you can just knock it off.
Yep.
And get the rest of that extract out. Now with the liquid malt extract, the challenge there is, since it's such a thick syrup, you need to be able to get it out and pour it all out. Now, a couple things you can do. You can put it in like a little bit of a hot water bath. That'll loosen it up, but still you're going to have some in there. A couple things you could do. I mean, I've used a spoon to kind of scrape it out, or even a little flat spatula. I've also kind of dipped it a little bit, swirled it around.
Take a little your hot water there, put it in there, swirl it around, try to get out. And that's important too, because we've measured the amount of LME that we want to go into our beer.
Correct.
Right? So we want to get all of that sugar out of there we possibly can.
Oh. Hi, Ryan. Ryan says, howdy from Michigan.
Yeah, from Michigan.
Thanks
What's
for joining us. And so, a couple of those things can help you to get all of that extract either out of the DME bag or the jar of LME that you've got.
And as you brew a couple of times, these things are just going to be second nature for you. They get a little bit easier, and it's like, it was a disaster that first time. I screwed up my beer. I screwed it up, Jeff. I screwed it up.
Yeah. You probably did not screw it up. It's one of the things I look at the way I brew now and the way I first brewed, and I look and I'm like, okay, how did I even make a beer that was drinkable?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you learn along the way, and your first batch, you're going to be fine. Just relax.
I loved tasting that first batch that I made too, because it was like, I have made this.
Yeah.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
Now I think back, it was probably atrocious.
Yeah, it probably was.
But you can make some really good beers. And I've had some buddies, their first batch taste pretty doggone good. I wouldn't get discouraged by that.
No. Actually, Nigel, this past Saturday, brought up a gentleman, and I can't remember his name, who did his first batch, bottled it, and it was just a kind of an English brown ale. It was really good. Really good.
I would say, I like your note here, number 4. It says, relax. It's beer. It's meant to be fun.
It is. It is. Now, another thing I've found out that works really well is when you're about to start your first extract batch, lay everything out. Make sure you got everything you need before you start. Because it can be easy because you get excited and you want to just go ahead and say, let's do it, let's make beer.
Right.
And if in the middle of things you realize, oh, nuts, I don't have a big spoon to stir this thing. What am I going to do? Where's my what am I going to do for, where's some, these ingredients? Where'd my hops go?
I forgot my hop. I don't have my 60-minute hop, and it's now 60 minutes. I need to add it to my boil.
Yeah. So lay everything out first, make sure you got it all, and then start your brew day.
And take a picture of it and post it so that your friends will be jealous and want to come have your beer.
Yeah, but be careful. Sometimes they'll drink a lot of your beer too. But lay everything out, your equipment, all that stuff, and kind of have a plan.
We got Joshua in Nebraska saying hello too.
Oh, all right,
Skurs. I lived in Lincoln for
Did you?
Yeah, for 8 years. So.
I spent a summer in Omaha.
3 of my brothers actually graduated from UNL, so
nice.
I love me some Nebraska.
All right, shout out there to you, Joshua. So make sure you lay it all out, all your equipment, everything, to make sure you've got it. And if you reach your brew day and you're not sure, talk to a friend who's brewed before, or give us a shout, and we'll be happy to help you and run you through it.
Absolutely, and that's a good point. If you, we will walk you through. Hopefully, our store is going to be open here. Oh, now we got Iowa.
We got a little state competition going on. We got Iowa too.
And Christopher in Iowa. Hello, Christopher. What was I saying? Just relax.
Yeah.
And try to enjoy yourself.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be okay. But I was saying, give us a call. We'll walk you through the whole process. And if you get a kit from us, there's a fantastic recipe inside. And I think there's a bunch of steps on there that can seem overwhelming, but if you just do every single one of those steps on our recipe, you're gonna have a good beer. It's gonna make a good beer. So just one at a time. Go over it, research again. That's kind of our major point here, I think, is understand what you're doing before you just throw everything in a pot and start boiling it out.
And kind of along those lines, you want to make sure that you've got a plan for cooling your wort at the end of your boil. This is something which when I was making my first batch, I did not quite have a plan for it. And so now I had finished my boil, I had this big pot, and I thought, okay, I got to cool this down.
Yeah, no, that's really, really important thing.
Yeah, and I didn't have a wort chiller, and so here I am, because I did brew this inside my house.
Okay.
And so here I am with this, this 3 or 4 gallon pot, waddling through, because it was hot and it was heavy.
Sure.
Waddling through the house, trying to get it to the bathtub.
Okay.
Just trying to get it to the bathtub, because first thing I put it in the sink, and that didn't work, because the sink wasn't deep enough. And so then I'm waddling to the tub to try and get it there.
Okay.
And so have a plan. Have a plan of how you're going to chill your wort, whether you're going to put it in an ice bath, or whether you have a wort chiller, or something like that.
Yeah, if it's a nice deep well sink or something like that, and it's right there, it's nice. Just to make sure that you have a bunch of ice in there, you can get that pot in there, right?
Yeah.
Looks like I got somebody from Texas.
Oh yeah,
joining us
Jay.
as well, Jay, what's happening? This
Got a
is
little-
good.
It is a little competition between the states.
I mean, we got 4 states in so far.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
see how
pretty
many
good.
we can get here.
Wonder who else we got. So yeah, make yourself a plan of how you're going to chill your wort and how you're going to get it there. Because realize at the end of this, you're going to have a pot full of just hot as blazes wort.
Yeah, boiling sugar water.
Yeah, and that does not feel good if you get it on yourself.
No, it will burn the heck out of you.
Yeah.
So I've got this sink. I've thrown in all my ice. Now I go to put my pot in there, and I can't get it in because it's all full of ice.
Yeah, that can happen too.
Absolutely, it happened to me the first time
Did
I
it?
brewed. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. It was like, okay, well, I thought everything out. Make sure you can get that pot in your sink first and get that ice around there.
Yeah.
And then what's even better is if you have a wort chiller. By far, that added step was a improvement to the quality of my beer. And here's the reason why: is when you're making this boil, you have a hop that goes in, right? Generally, you'll have something at 60 minutes that's kind of our bittering hop, and then you'll have something later on that's going to be for a little bit of aroma or a little bit of a taste, right? If it takes me 45 minutes for this boil to chill down, that hop that I put in for taste at 5 minutes has now been in that solution for another 45, or excuse me, aroma.
Yeah.
So just something to kind of think about. It can up your game a little bit by having a wort chiller. For not a lot of money, you can get something that'll cool that. Make it a lot easier for you to handle
Indeed.
in your home.
And keep you from having to buy bags and bags of ice to do it, or emptying your entire ice machine of your refrigerator and upsetting people. Or for those of y'all who are up north, if you're boiling during winter, you might just be able to walk out in your backyard and stick it in the snow.
Just put it right in the snow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Along with the 6-pack of beer, so it's nice and cold.
Exactly. Now, along with that, if you can brew outside, I recommend it, or at least not in the house.
Okay.
Reason I say that is, first couple of batches I brewed on kitchen stove, and then I spent about the next 3 days cleaning the kitchen stove.
Oh, you had a boil over.
Oh yeah. One of the things you can find out is what happens is when you're having all this sugar and all this stuff in the solution, you're starting your boil, it can be very easy to have what's called a boil over, in which your pot boils over and you've got this hot sugary water liquid that's comes down on onto your stovetop and burns.
Yeah, I had a ceramic stove top actually, and we used to brew there in my kitchen. Which another point is that my wife hated the smell of that, and the entire house I thought smelled wonderful. She completely hated that smell, but she hated it even worse that I had gotten that sugar so stuck and burnt onto our nice ceramic, stove top. So. You bring up a good point. If you can have like a propane burner or something like that outside, it's really enjoyable. Now, it's really hot in Texas, though.
Very true. And so, I mean, being able to be inside is something nice. And if you can, I mean, if you do plan on brewing inside and you're doing it on your stovetop, just watch it. As your boil's getting ready to start, keep an eye on it, because it can boil over quickly and make a huge mess. Now, if you're brewing on a grain father or a mash and boil or one of those electric brew systems, a little bit less worry about boil over.
Yeah, but probably an increased worry about getting water all over the floor or
Correct.
something like that, because we're going to have a chiller, we're going to have lots of water, stuff like that running around as well. So, kind of a different story.
So you might have some cleaning supplies around regardless. If you're brewing inside, have a few things available and at the ready of to clean up some spills quickly, or even for that matter, if you're brewing in your garage or something like that, have a hose nearby to spray stuff off, because it can become very easy to drip stuff here and there, and before long you can have a sticky mess in your garage or on your back porch or in your house.
Absolutely. And just again, a little bit of caution, a little bit of common sense goes a long way here. If you've pre-planned, is exactly what we're trying to get at. That's going to help you out. There's definitely going to be something that you forgot.
Oh yeah.
I need to do that now. Oh, my thing goes. Another thing is set yourself a timer as well.
Yes.
for your boil, for your brew, so you have something to help you kind of remind yourself when you need to be doing things.
And on the recipe and on the kits which we have, the recipe tells you what time things go in. Now, along those things, I've heard some confusion from some people. They'll say, well, okay, what I see on here, it says on my 30-minute hop addition, in my 20-minute hop addition. Does that mean 20 minutes into the boil or 20 minutes, towards the end?
No, for sure, Jeff. If you look on our recipe, it actually says to start your clock and count down from there.
Yes.
So you're going to want to start it for 60 minutes, excuse me. And then as you tick down, so your 20 minutes would be 20 minutes left in the boil, correct?
Correct.
Your 15 would be 15 left in the boil.
Yes. So that's good to kind of keep in mind. You might, if any of y'all have a phone, a lot of the phones have timers on them. That's always helpful. If not, I know microwaves and ovens have timers on them, and I mean, there's a number of timers that you can find. I have an old timer that I sometimes use that actually keeps 3 different times. So I can keep, a timer for how long the boil's been going on, total, as well as, my minute timers for hop additions and whirl flock and all that stuff.
Absolutely. So another thing I would say too is if it's your first extract batch, we didn't have a lot of these resources again when I started, and places weren't doing like beer kits.
Yeah.
We have a fabulous extract kit, a whole array of them actually, and there's a style, any style that you can think of or that you like, from light to dark, from hoppy to malty. We have a pretty good recipe, and it's a proven recipe. It's going to make a good beer for you.
Well, and along those lines, if you watched our blonde episode, which was last week, where we highlighted the blonde style, you'll know that there's a coupon code at the in that video for getting 15% off your blonde ale. So, if there's some of y'all out there haven't taken that opportunity yet, you can get a blonde ale kit and brew that up.
Now, do they have to watch the episode, or are you going to give them the coupon code?
I don't know. Austin, should I make them watch the episode, or can we give them the coupon code? Austin doesn't want to say. I'll go ahead and tell you. Don't tell Austin.
Okay.
It's 15 blonde, BLONDE.
Don't tell Austin.
Don't tell Austin.
As long as we don't tell him, we'll be fine.
That's 15% off our blonde ale kits.
Yeah, and take advantage of that, because we have several blondes too. We have the Imperial Blonde, we also
Barbecue
have
Blonde.
the Barbecue Blonde, and I think there's a Lemon Drop Blonde. Is that a blonde?
I don't know if that's a blonde or not. It is?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that's a blonde too.
And the Brazos.
And the Brazos blonde, which is
Yep.
just your
So there's 4 kits there that you can get right now for 15% off if you wanted to try something. And right now is the perfect time to brew a blonde because it's summertime.
Mhm.
It's a nice, easy drinker, and you can probably get your friends into having one with you.
And I've heard the barbecue blonde. I've not brewed it and I've not had it yet, but I know Michael was telling me the other day that it goes great with when you're cooking out and grilling out. Has a little bit of a smoked character in the background. And
Yeah, no, indeed, it's a really, really interesting thing, and I think it's 2 pounds of cherrywood smoked malt in there. It's really, really nice. But I would tell you, if you're not going to get a kit, a good starting hop would be that Cirillo hop.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's
That might
true.
be something that you want to look
Yeah.
into for your first extract kit.
Yeah, make sure you ask us sometime about sending you some Drilla hops. We'd be happy to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else here?
I guess
you just want to kind of go through, kind of start to finish, real fast rundown of, okay, I've got this stuff. What do I do?
Okay.
How do I start?
Sure. So let's say you've got your equipment and you've ordered your first extract kit from us. You ordered the blonde ale. Maybe you grabbed an ounce of Cirillo to put in to kind of add a little something extra to it.
Could be a bittering hop or an aroma hop. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And so if as you got the stuff, what do? Okay. Well, first off, you lay everything out. Make sure you've got everything. You got your equipment, your fermenter, your boil kettle. Make sure you've got a plan and how you're going to chill your wort at the end of the boil. Make sure you have a spoon to be able to stir everything in. Make sure you have your little muslin bag, like if you have your kit, we've got the muslin bag, but lay out the ingredients. Make sure you have a way of keeping time, so you'll know kind of what, where you're at in your boil and what needs to be added next. You'll also want to maybe have a pen so you can make notes. You can, on all of our little recipe sheets, there's an area for you to make notes about your brew day, things that happened.
Absolutely, calculations are on there as well as area. There's actually an area there for you to take your reading, your gravity reading after the beer is done, which Jeff is going to get there in just a second. For the original and the final, and the equation is in there so you can tell how much alcohol is in your beer as well.
Good to know.
So, it's really a good thing too. If you don't use that recipe, or if you start with those recipe sheets, I have to take this.
Okay, so no problem. And so yes, if you have the recipe sheet in there, keep those notes and look at them. So as Brock is dealing with some stuff, y'all are keeping us busy, which we appreciate. One of the things that you will want to do next is after you've laid everything out, clean it. Make sure everything is clean. If your pot needs to be scrubbed out, go ahead and give it a scrub. Make sure your spoons, everything that's going to be in contact with your beer has been cleaned. Go ahead and sanitize your carboy even if you want to, or your fermenter. I've done that before using Asasan or Star San. Then once you have all that ready, you'll need to start. So you'll need to have yourself a big pot. A lot of times people use stock pots, kind of the biggest pot you can afford. Anywhere from a 4 to 5 gallon pot is a perfect size. But if you're using smaller, that can you can still work with that. And then once you've done that, once you start bringing up your water, you're going to steep your grains, and they'll talk about that in the recipe, which you'll put the grains inside of this muslin sock, and you'll let it soak in there or steep in there, kind of like a tea bag. And you'll let that stay in there for a little while. And again, it's all written on the instructions. Then it will come time to bring your water up to a boil, and be able to add your extract in. At that point, you'll add your DME or your LME, your dry malted extract, or your liquid malted extract. Be careful to stir the whole time, because you don't want the extract to scorch or burn to the bottom. Or like Brock was saying, maybe if you can take it off of the heat, that would kind of help to avoid that. Then once you've poured that in and gotten it stirred up, you bring it to a boil, watch it, especially if you're brewing inside, so that you can watch it and reduce the heat if it's starting to boil over or getting close to boiling over, because you don't want to make a mess. Have some cleaning supplies available, towels or rags or paper towels, something like that, to clean up if you have some spills or if something begins to boil over. Now, once you've done that, you'll be adding in your hops at the various times that it mentions in the recipe, whichever recipe you're making. And then, as you've done that, again, you'll be keeping time. At the end of it, you'll follow your plan for how you're going to cool down your wort. So either you have a wort chiller that you'll use to chill it, or you will actually, like myself and Brock, we actually did put ours in an ice bath, and so you'll want to go ahead and do that. Then once you have chilled it down, now once you've chilled it, everything that touches your wort from there on needs to be sanitized. So if you're going to use a spoon to stir it while it's in the ice bath to kind of keep it circulating and cool it down faster, make sure that spoon has been sanitized with Star San or Ace of San. Then, once you're going to get it into your fermenter, again, everything that touches it from there on, you need to make sure is sanitized. So once you have it in your fermenter, then you will, you chilled it down and you're pouring it into your fermenter, either your Carboy or your bucket or whatever the case may be. You'll then put your yeast in there. Now we'll talk about pitching yeast, and if you want to find out more about that, we have an episode on kind of some of the brewing terminology, but that simply means that you are pouring your yeast, either your dry yeast or your liquid yeast, into your fermenter to ferment the beer. Then you cap it, put on your airlock. You'll want to put a little bit of the sanitizer in the airlock.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. So you'll want to have the airlock on, and then you'll wait for fermentation. Now, along those lines, sometimes people will contact us and say, it's been 12 hours, the airlock's not doing anything. Is my batch ruined?
It doesn't necessarily mean that batch is not doing anything. However, if you got your kit here, there's a great tool that you can use called a hydrometer.
Yes, forgot to mention that.
And this is going to measure the amount of sugar that's in solution. So kind of how that works is you're going to brew your batch. We've put all these sugars in, right, our LMEs or stuff like that. And then once it's done, before we pitch our yeast, we're going to take a reading with that. And it's going to give us our original gravity. It's a measurement of specific gravity is a measurement of sugar in solution. So 1.000 is water, right? So anything over that is going to start clicking on that we have sugar present in there. So that's a really, really good way. Sanitize your hydrometer. Go ahead and throw it right into the bucket there. And if there's any drop in there at all, you know that your yeast is actively working. Even if you don't see that your airlock is bubbling, because some of them are just slow chuggers. It just hasn't built up that pressure. It's not a vigorous yeast strain, something like that.
Because sometimes it takes a little while, because there'll be some head space in there, which is a space between your beer and the top of your fermenter, whether it be a carboy or a bucket, and it takes a while for the yeast to fill that space up with CO2.
Absolutely. Now, is our yeast going to start working immediately once I pitch it in there?
Yes and no. The yeast have to get used to their environment, which means they need to take in some nutrients and things like that to kind of build themselves up and get ready to, for all the chomping down that they need to do on the sugars that are in there.
Sure.
And so there's going to be a little bit of a phase there in which you won't see anything happening, but the yeast are working hard to take in those nutrients and begin to multiply and get ready for making beer.
Eating that oxygen that we fed in and a little bit of nutrient there, and it's kind of a lag phase, but it's their first kind of life cycle,
correct,
if you will, right? And they're not making any alcohol during this period, right? No. They're just splitting and budding and getting used to their environment. It's when they run out of that stuff that they start chomping down on all this wonderful sugar that we just fed them.
Exactly. And then that's where they start making the beer. So don't panic if that happens. It's not a problem. Once you're fermenting and going, you wait until it's done, and then you will take your gravity again. Now, a lot of times people say, well, how do I know it's done? Is it 3 days? Is it 5 days? Is it 7 days? Is it 10 days? Well, your beer will be done when it's done. It's kind of the best way to say it.
And the best way to really know if your beer is done is to take that reading. Measure
Correct.
that gravity. Make sure that you've gotten that drop that you're looking for. And all of our kits, again, on our recipes, you'll have a final gravity that's your target gravity, if you will, of what you're looking for. Now, if you're not going to do that, a good rule of thumb for beginning brewers, I like 10 days to 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I used to just say 2 weeks. That way I knew that if I brewed on Saturday, 2 weeks later, I could go and I could transfer that beer. That beer was probably going to be done. But generally, you're going to want to wait at least 10 days, correct?
And, it's going to be fine. Just, again, relax. This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And and sometimes I've had beers finish more quickly,
Yep.
but I still usually let them sit in there just a little bit longer because it's not going to hurt it, and it gives time for it to finish up.
Yeah, that's another kind of a myth too, right? If I don't get this off in a certain amount of days, it's going to put all these terrible flavors in.
Yeah.
And there's been extensive studies on that, and it shows that you can leave a beer on a trub up until a month or after before it starts picking up any of these off flavors from that yeast.
Yeah. So, again, relax. It's going to be fine. And if you have questions about it, feel free to call us. We're here to help, and we love beer making and we love the hobby, and so we love to help people in making beer and making better beer.
Absolutely.
And let's see, I haven't seen any questions in the chat.
Nope, Texas is here. We only got 4 states today.
All right. Well, maybe next time we'll have a little more than 4 states.
Yeah, maybe so.
Anything else you can think of?
I think I'm okay.
Okay. So, again, with the extract batch, there's some things to think about. Also, we've got other videos online. Check out some of those videos that talk about some of the brewing terminology that we use. That talk about some of the ways of sanitizing and cleaning and all those sorts of little tidbits. So take a look at those, and we appreciate your support as well as all your orders. It's been good.
Absolutely, Gerillo. So. Again, we just want to thank you guys for everything that, all the love that's kind of come our way, Gerillo.
Yeah.
For all the love that's come our way, keep the orders rolling in. We're trying our best to get everything to you as fast as we possibly can. Guys, unfortunately, our shop is still not going to be open. I think we got pushed back about another week. We were shooting for the 15th. I think it's going to be the week after. But we're working hard to get the shop back in good shape.
Saludos de México.
Hey,
César, hi, saludo. Y bienvenidos.
He's with us quite a bit. Nice.
La próxima vez podemos platicar en español.
What he said.
I'm trying to teach Brock some Spanish. So, César.
Sabana Malteada.
Oh, yeah. 4 states and 2 countries. Do we have the topics for the upcoming shows? We do. And I think Austin emailed those out. But just to kind of let you know, tomorrow we're going to be checking in with Cedric on how our kombucha is progressing. And so we're going to actually have...
tasted it today.
Yeah. So we're going to have a little bit of talking about what's next with...
Here's Cedric right here.
Yeah, what's next?
We're talking about your kombucha show.
Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's tomorrow. It's a big time for us. We get to see what we made.
But tomorrow, can you explain to Cesar in Espanol how to make kombucha?
No, I usually get you to translate everything.
Cesar, if you need... Cedric can have me translate. Yo puedo traducir todo de haciendo su kombucha en español si usted quiere.
It sounds beautiful in Spanish.
Now, I'm wondering if the closed caption's going to come through.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
So, thank you guys again for everything that you've been doing. If there's anything that we can do for you, please holler at us. We're still doing $49 free shipping, and we'd love to put that in a box and have it to you next day in most areas. Did it come through?
No, it didn't.
No?
It just
Did it
stopped.
just look like a bunch of gibberish?
No, I just didn't do anything. So, but yeah, as Brock was saying, appreciate it. Oh, we also, this week, we're going to have another style highlight.
Yes.
We're going to highlight Märzen's.
Märzen's,
So,
yes.
for those of y'all who maybe
Fest
still have not...
beers, malty, good, wonderful German.
So for those of y'all who maybe perhaps have not brewed one yet, but want to brew one for the fall, we're going to be talking about the style in depth.
Märzen and Marzen?
And
Märzen's.
Märzen's.
Marzen?
And then...
They're Marzen beers in Texas.
See, we got the kombucha, and then I can't remember what the next... on Friday we're going to be talking about mash and boils and grain fathers. What are the differences, and what are the how do we?
I love equipment.
That mash bowl, man.
So we'll be talking about that too,
Oh,
Cesar.
man.
And Cesar, if you have any topics that you would be interested in us covering, let us know. Shoot us an email or put something in chat, and we'll be happy to approach the topic.
Yeah, Sua or Tapache.
We could do Tepache.
I want to do Tapache. Maybe Sua. One day.
Otra vez.
Otra vez.
Another one.
Alrighty.
Okay, I think we could wrap it up, Jeff.
Think
I
so.
would say, stay safe
Stay at home.
and brew it.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.